Easter eggs. They were introduced in the version 50 update for Lethal Company and always like to create hilarious moments.
Here, I'm just gonna exit for a second, okay?
Okay, 1 second.
But how do they work? There's a huge misconception that they have a 16% chance to explode, but this isn't exactly correct, and we're going to look into that in this video. Before the super nerdy stuff, let's go over the basics. Eggs can be tossed or dropped, and will either explode or not explode. Their explosion does a lot of damage, killing most entities and killing players if exploding directly at their feet. Eggs will only explode when dropped or thrown by a player, so hoarding bugs cannot explode eggs, and gift boxes cannot have eggs explode when coming out of them. Lastly, throwing or dropping eggs makes no difference on whether or not they will explode. However, I would really love to see a change in that because it would be cool to have it explode every time you throw an egg, but never explode when you drop an egg. Now, what determines if an egg explodes? You can think of the moon you are playing on as a giant grid made up of small boxes. Whenever you pull out an egg or pick up an egg, the game will check where your hand has pulled out that egg or where you picked the egg up from. We like to call these places coordinates. Some coordinates will cause the egg to explode, while others won't. These explosive and non-explosive coordinates are determined by the random seed generated at the start of the moon you land on. Here's an example to help understand a little better. If I am on a moon and pick up my egg from one spot, or pull it out in the one spot, throw it, and it doesn't explode, that means it will never explode when tossing or dropping the egg after I pulled it out from that spot. So I can continuously just pick up the egg here and throw it down over and over infinitely, and it won't ever explode. Using this information, you can also guarantee an egg explodes if you have 2 eggs. Find a coordinate by tossing an egg around until it explodes. Once you find where it explodes, go back to that spot and pull out your second egg. Then you know this egg will explode because it was taken out at the same coordinate. This can be a little difficult at times because coordinates are very small and you actually have to be quite precise when pulling the egg out. So that's an overview on the coordinate system. We can now use this information in a strange way to guarantee that our eggs will never explode. I'm going to have a friend of mine, Maku, explain this part as they did a majority of the research for these egg spots that never explode.
As Brett already said, the egg RNG uses the map seed and the coordinates to check if eggs will explode or not. The code looks something like this. This means that you can build correlations between multiple things that also use the map seed to generate RNG, such as item count and interior generated. After that, all that is needed is to search all 100 million seeds on every moon and check the coordinates of interest, in this case all ship coordinates, and relate them to how many items have spawned or what kind of interior was generated. This is essentially what I compiled in the egg sheet, along with a doc with an extensive list of all the lineups that work for each scenario on all the moons. Links in the description. For item-based lineups, special items are not included in the count, so apparatus doesn't count and neither does the +6 from Mineshaft. This means that a 37 item facility actually uses the 36 item lineup, and a 23 item Mineshaft uses the 17 lineup instead. There are only 2 lineups you need to learn, and they're quite easy to remember, one of them by the suits and one of them by where the cupboard spawns by default. On every moon, if the amount of items spawned is in the bottom half of the range, then the correct lineup is the suit, and if it's on the top half of the range, it's the cupboard. The middle is included in the bottom half. So for example, on Artifice on V56, which has a range of 31 to 37, 31 to 34 uses the suit lineup, and 35 to 37 uses the cupboard lineup. A little reminder is that as client, the player position isn't updated every time you moved on the server, so before you pull the egg you gotta jump to make sure your position is synced for the server. But sometimes the item counts are not reliable, and you get bugged seeds where the item count is less than the minimum amount of the item range is, and for that case specifically, you gotta use the interior based lineup that you can look up on the doc. If you want to have access to all the egg data that I have, you can just make a copy of the egg sheet and use the drop down menus to see how the scenarios you select affect the ship coordinates.
Something pretty cool is in version 50 and version 56, it was found that the hosts can change their game to 30 frames per second and guarantee an egg never explodes. Sadly, this doesn't work in later versions. More info on that can be seen in the video linked in the description. Here's some other amazing info regarding Easter eggs. You can avoid damage from Easter eggs at the selling counter by standing as far away from the counter when putting it on. it helps to be at the corner with the bell. Even if the egg explodes on the counter, you are still able to sell it, so make sure to ring that bell. Next, almost all entities die to a single egg explosion, and it's not based on distance. Eggs are like landmines and do 6 damage to entities. This damage is doubled for eyeless dogs, meaning they are killed with 1 egg. Giants will also die to 1 egg explosion as they are set on fire afterwards. The only exceptions are butlers, which take 2 egg explosions, and adult man-eaters, which take 5 egg explosions. And no invincible entities such as jesters or coils are affected by eggs. My favorite way to use eggs are throwing them on landmines to trigger them. It's great for killing entities when you can't guarantee an egg explosion. One fun fact is that there are 5 variations of Easter eggs. Here are the spawn chances for each moon that they spawn on. Lastly, eggs have a few issues with grading tiles, and we'll just go through them when thrown, so make sure to be careful with that. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'm also live almost every day on Twitch, so make sure to leave a follow there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them in the comments. That's it for now.